for joining us here on the Neutral Zone. I am Phil Milani, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, my partner in crime. Really, the best way to describe this person is my everything. It's at Aric DiLalla.
Phil, the happiest podcast you'll ever podcast.
I'm still on cloud nine over here.
Yeah, we're recording this on Thursday afternoon following the conclusion of mandatory minicamp.
Oh, was that going on today?
I was here at mandatory minicamp. Phil, you were off riding on a fire truck somewhere.
Well, I've waited 47 years, Aric, and
that's right, plus the additional 20 years that you've been alive.
And the whole city gathered, and we had a nice time.
Yeah, you, of course, were up at the parade.
Yeah.
For the Denver Nuggets were taking their shirts off and
I,
spraying
of course,
alcohol.
had my shirt also off.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I took my son there. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a nice little time.
Throwing him up in the air.
Yeah. I was like, catch my baby. Sign his forehead.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were like, no,
yeah, you just let him loose, and then you're like,
oh, yeah.
Now I have to go on the float.
That's a good way to do
Smart.
it. Yeah. But, yeah, it was a nice time, Aric. I think that a lot of Broncos talk this week about the Nuggets winning the championship. And, I think that it's cool for other sports teams to get involved, too. Like, they're fans of the Nuggets. And, being at the parade today, Aric, it reminded me of the parade in 2016 and just going down 17th there right in the middle of downtown. There's really nothing like that.
Nope, need to get back there. Sean Payton talked about that. He said that winning a Super Bowl is like seeing a photo of it times 10,000 or 100,000.
He
and
said he couldn't expect
better than that.
Yeah, exactly.
But he said seeing those the parade, seeing them win, reminded him of that feeling. And
yeah,
the Broncos want to get back there.
Especially, with a Super Bowl, like you are playing in a different city, so like you go play somewhere, then you come back for the parade, and it's really the first time the whole city gets involved.
Unless you're the Buccaneers or the Rams, of course, back to back.
That's true. That's true.
But as far as we know, Phil, no Super Bowls currently planned for Denver.
That's true.
So,
but I was happy that the Nuggets won it at home because it's kind of makes it a little more like the Avs won it in Tampa the year before.
Yeah, Tampa.
And the whole arena clears out. You know what I mean? And
what even is a Tampa?
I don't even know what a Tampa is.
Yeah, Ybor City.
Exactly. Is it a bay? What is it? You know what I mean? So that's confusing. But congratulations to the Denver Nuggets. I think it's
congrats to them. Congrats to you. And now we can move forward and talk about
the last thing I'll say about that is
keep going.
Each game is so stressful, Aric.
Yep.
That, for 2 months here, pretty much every other night, it was really stressful.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm glad I don't have to be in that mode anymore. But at the same time,
you miss it.
What a journey. You know what I mean? And even just as a fan, just sit, in your living room.
Imagine if you had been in a locker room, you would have been smoking a cigar, you would have been taking photos with a trophy, just like the rest of the media.
Yeah, the rest of the media. You, of course, don't like this.
I don't agree with that.
You think that if you work for the media, even if you're a local station, you should be in there objectively covering the celebration.
I do. It doesn't mean you can't internally enjoy it, but I don't think you should be doing some of the nonsense.
Yeah. Now,
of course, Phil, if the Broncos were to win a Super Bowl, we are employed by the Denver Broncos.
We are. Yeah, it's a little bit different.
We'll be going crazy.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. I agree with you for the most part that, like, if you're a reporter for working for an outlet covering the team, you need to be like a one step removed, because if something bad happens, you got to be able to cover it and report on it. And so I agree with you there. But at the same time, I also think that if you are employed by a local outlet, there is some mutual sort of benefit to your team being good. Do you know what I mean?
Sure,
like the Denver Post, all the local TV stations, they benefit from this additional coverage and everybody being so tapped in, excited. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's some part of it where if the people that are reading you or watching you, they're consuming it, and you're like, I'm trying to just feed Nuggets fans. I think you kind of get into it too.
Yeah. And let me be clear here. I'm not singling anybody out because a lot of people are excited. A lot of people are doing similar things, and it's not unique to Denver. It happens all across the country every year with local people. It just I'm a pure R.
If you're covering it though for like ESPN or like Yahoo or like your national outlet, then yeah, you're in the celebration every year.
Yeah.
So you don't get caught up in it. But when it's the team that you're covering and you know the guys and you're happy for them and they're all celebrating and you're like, hey, I'm going to just take a photo here. Like, how often am I going to be in this exact situation? I don't particularly have an issue with it. But
if you worked for me, it'd be the last time you're in that situation.
I understand where you're coming from, though, Eric.
I'm only kidding. I'm glad everybody was happy and had fun and enjoyed themselves. And
I understand where you're coming from.
For the gram,
I understand where you're coming from, but I do think that, especially local sports.
I like a line between fan and reporter.
Yeah. It's okay. That's interesting.
Well, never mind.
Oh, gee, no.
Well, I was going to make like a song reference, but I think the singer got canceled, so I was going to stay away from it.
Oh, got it. Yeah, don't do it. So just stay away.
It was a good reference, though.
Anyway, you referring to songs is probably a bad idea, no matter who it is. Yeah, so just don't do it. But we can talk a little Broncos.
That'd be nice.
Talk about mandatory minicamp. Eric, really the first time that we've got a lot of access to the team here. We heard from a lot of players this week. We heard from a lot of coaches this week. Watched all the practices. Oh, you did. I missed one.
Yeah, what Greg Dulcich and Kareem Jackson, of course, talked Thursday. What stood out to you about what they said?
Well, Dulcich, this is an opportunity for him, and he's got to stay healthy this year.
Yep.
And I thought that was really interesting. And, Kareem talking about coming back, and being part of the team and playing with Justin again. And, of course, his relationship with Vance Joseph, these types of things are all really important.
That's true. That stood out to me, too.
So I think those are like really important things that we learned this week.
Right. Yep.
So. But I thought there was a couple of things we could get into a little bit. Of course, Vance Joseph being back in Denver now after his 2-year stint as the head coach. He spent 4 years as the Cardinals defensive coordinator. Now he's back in Denver. Said that Denver's his home.
Yep.
Still has a home here. Those two are different things.
Correct.
Having a home and it being home, that's different. Okay. But he said this is home. And so we'll get into that a little bit.
Okay.
And then maybe we'll talk a little bit about Pat Surtain.
Ooh.
So much talk about how he could get better at cornerback.
D-Mac's revenge.
If he can get, some more interceptions.
Yep.
One thing that we just totally forgot to talk about is what if he's returning punts?
We forgot about that.
We forgot to talk about that.
But it came up.
It came up. What was the other thing we wanted to talk about? There was a third thing, I think.
Yeah, we wanted to talk about also the Pat Surtain and the Vance Joseph, and there
was one other thing that we were trying to talk about. What was it?
Maybe we'll figure it out on the road ahead.
Goodness gracious! Yeah,
that'll be kind of a surprise topic.
There was a third topic there that we were trying to bring you after. There was just so much, this week during minicamp that we were like, the Surtain really was the one that cut us off, and then. Gosh, can you remember what it was?
Oh, we were going to talk about the Broncos, of course, signed Frank Clark.
Oh, yeah. What other areas?
Yeah, what other areas could they sign somebody?
Yeah, exactly. Sean Payton talked a little bit about that on Thursday morning, just saying, hey, I don't want to use the word light in areas.
Right.
He didn't want to refer to any position groups because he's pretty happy with where the Broncos are right now. But he did say that 365 days of the year, Eric, they're always looking to improve the roster.
Right.
Christmas morning, try to improve the roster.
Well, of course.
New Year's.
Get a little gift under the tree.
Yeah. New Year's, new player.
Yeah.
4th of July, new player. Halloween, new player.
That actually is possible.
165 days.
Yeah. What if there's a leap year? You think they do the extra one or no?
366, yeah.
Oh.
Did you know that a year, it takes the Earth to go around 365.25?
I do know that.
The
leap year is more just so our calendar can catch up.
Exactly. Correct. Makes you think.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah. So we'll talk about, hey, are there some other positions where the Broncos might find its version of Frank Clark?
Yes.
So we'll get into that, Eric. But before we do that, this is an interactive show, Eric.
It absolutely is, Phil. There are so many ways that you can get in touch with us.
There's so many.
You could leave an email at neutralzoneshow@gmail.com. You could leave a voice message, 707-NEUTRAL. We'll play it right here on the air. You could tweet at us directly on Twitter at Phil Milani with a PH or at Aric DiLalla with an A.
Non-traditional spellings.
That, of course, is true. Phil, before we get to our favorite way, I will say that somebody reached out on Twitter, sent me a direct message. I thought I would read it here.
DM?
A DM. They slid in there.
Okay. Let's hear it.
This is from Tom.
Tom. THOM or just the TOM?
Just TOM.
Got it.
Traditional. He says, love the show. I'm a lifelong Saints fan, but there's a special place in my heart for Coach Payton. He spoiled us. As a Saints fan, I had come to expect the worst each year until we won Super Bowl 44. Then Saints fans expected to win it all every year. LOL. Anyway, I'm cheering for Coach Payton and the Broncos as long as they're not playing the Saints. And I look forward to listening to your podcast this upcoming season. Keep up the good work.
Oh, that was nice.
Always love a, thank you, Tom. We always love a new listener.
Yeah.
Particularly when they come over from another team like AJ, who is a big Teddy Bridgewater fan. He joined us for a year and then went away forever. But Tom, welcome to the Broncos bandwagon.
Yeah, this is welcome to NZ Nation.
Welcome. Send you a sticker.
We're happy to have you.
DM us your address, Tom. We'll get you a sticker.
We'll send you a sticker.
Phil is on that.
We'll send you a sticker.
They still exist.
Well, what's our favorite way?
Our favorite way, Phil, is that you can leave a comment on the Broncos official YouTube page. You mosey on over there. Maybe you get home from the parade. You're looking for content. You say, I'm kind of onto the Broncos now that the Nuggets are done. You go over to the Broncos official YouTube page. You click the neutral zone. Maybe you watch it. That could be really nice.
You got to watch it.
And then you leave a comment, and we will read our favorite ones right here on the air.
This one is from @y'all03001.
Ooh, okay.
03001.
Is that their zip code?
Happy Parade Day, Nuggets fans. This is from today. Phil won me over this year with all his Jokic shoutouts. That's nice. Are you paying attention there?
Are we still talking about the Nuggets?
Okay, this one is from @Buffereldo.
Okay.
@Buffereldo. Phil, and I need you. Eric, and I miss you. I don't really know what that means, but if you're talking about, hey, there's a little break here before training camp starts, what's going to happen to my neutral zone? We're still going to be here. So I need you. I miss you.
Hold on. I think I might know what that might be about.
Is that a thing? Are you Googling it?
I'm looking it up. Hold on.
And I need you and I miss you. Is that a song?
Yep. So last week we referenced, I said that someone was making their way downtown walking fast. Faces Pass. Of course, 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton. So he's during the chorus, I need you and I miss you.
Oh, this is Vanessa Carlton.
Yeah.
They
are replying to that song reference. Really good. Pretty.
That's nice.
Pretty daring to suggest we would remember what we talked about last week. But we got there. Thank you. We need you and miss you too.
Speaking of last week's episode, we talked about the wide receiver room.
Yep.
This is from @GGG15.
Okay.
My predictions for the wide receivers: Jerry, Court, Tim, Marquez, Mims, Brandon Johnson.
Oh, wow. Six. Yeah. Okay. So no KJ Hamler in that. No little Jordan Humphrey.
Nope. Jalen Virgil, Kendall Hinton.
Oh, I love Kendall.
I know. Me too.
I will say, based on, we're not allowed to talk much about what we have seen during OTAs and minicamp, but Brandon Johnson's impressed me a couple times.
Yeah, he's been up with he's been playing a lot out there with a lot of the
Broncos,
with a lot of the guys that this commenter mentioned. So,
wow, scoop.
Said that.
You see that on Pro Football Talk later. Headline: Brandon Johnson playing a lot with the other guys.
Yeah.
Perfect.
@Guizai.
Okay.
Can we get some timestamps, bookmarks, please? You guys are funny, but I'm a busy adult, and I need to get to the core content quickly.
Busy adult. That's true.
Guizai.
Maybe need a longer commute.
Guizai. There are timestamps.
Well, so I think the issue was last week we just had one topic.
Oh,
so it was just one. It was one timestamp that got you to that topic, but then it was 30
too
minutes.
Too much funny in that.
Yeah.
Got it. I see.
We'll have more timestamps this week because we're talking about Vance Joseph, Pat Surtain, and something else.
Yeah, the third topic, of course, is the Frank Clark.
Yeah.
Last comment here. This is from Finessin Works 5679. If the wide receiver room was a loaded baked potato, what players would be what ingredients? Judy would be bacon bits, etc. This is from Finessin Works 5679.
Okay. What sort of baked potato toppings are we talking about? You got cheese?
Sour cream.
Did you say chives? I meant to say
chives.
cheese and chives. I combined them. Cheese chives.
Cheese and chives.
So you got cheese, you got chives, sour cream,
bacon bits,
butter.
I think those are the main ones. Maybe some people put like a little chili on top.
Oh, that's going a little crazy.
That is.
Okay, let's do those 5.
Yeah, the
maybe.
5.
Okay,
yeah,
I think Jerry is the butter.
Oh,
he's smooth.
Yeah,
he kind of the butter kind of if it's melted.
You have to have butter.
You have to.
You have to have butter.
It folds into the cracks of the potato.
I agree with you.
It finds a spot to just exist and just catch that goodness.
A dry baked potato, nobody wants it.
Nobody wants it. Butter is probably the most important element of a good baked potato.
You have to have that.
And it gets open, the same way that Jerry Judy does.
Oh yeah.
It finds its way into those cracks.
I see. Loose hips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. So we got Jerry as butter.
Okay. Cortland Sutton.
I'm going to say he's bacon bits.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Big play.
Big play. Chunks of bacon. Chunk play. He's kind of like he's the big receiver, kind of the possession guy. He's got like that hardiness to him that some bacon has.
Yeah. Smoky or no? Like he's a little.
Yeah, maybe he
smokes some defenders.
You always want a little bit more.
Oh yeah,
like
exactly.
From Cortland, we're like, come on, get back to that 2019.
Yeah,
with Sean Payton.
You had a taste.
Exactly. You want
and
more.
You want some more bacon.
Sean Payton, of course, this week said Cortland dropped a pretty good album in 2019.
That's true.
Now they think the 2023 soundtrack will be pretty good.
Yeah, he's looking for a good soundtrack.
Yeah, so I think Cortland's that bacon.
Okay. I'm surprised he didn't do this, Sean. He just went with the album.
Maybe when he listens to this, he'll do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got what? Sour cream, chives,
and what do you think, Tim Patrick?
Cheese left?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Tim Patrick is a cheese.
Oh, really? I was going to say sour cream.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's got some edge to him,
Oh, like a little
it's
bite.
Not like whipped cream. This is sour cream.
Little bite.
Okay, it's got some bite.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh.
Yeah. Like whipped cream is just like always happy. No, sour cream has got some edge. Yeah, some edge.
Yeah.
And it's like when you got sour cream, you're like, this is nice.
This is nice.
Yeah. We went all out.
Kind of helps you get over. It kind of helps you get over the edge.
Yeah.
Like it takes it to the next level.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's extra. Like some places you want a little sour cream. Okay, that's going to be. That makes it like a supreme.
What place is charging you for sour cream? It's not guac.
It's
some
places it's like guac.
You're at a redacted burrito
cream.
place, and I'm like, "Can I have sour cream?" They're like, "That'll be extra."
Yeah,
you got to go to a different place.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I like that.
A lot of times when you add sour cream, it's like that makes it supreme.
Maybe like packs a punch a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Tim kind of did against the Raiders that one time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Punch. Nice.
Okay, so cheese and chives. Kind of running out of receivers here. I'll say. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Greg Dulcich.
Oh, you want to put him into
this?
Is
this cheating? I think it's a little cheating, but I'll say he's the chives because it's like it's like a little sprinkle, like something extra. It's like a little bit fancy.
Like, what is this?
You're like a little fancy.
This is nice.
And you're like, oh, boom, who's that beating a linebacker down the field for a tub?
Yeah.
Who's wide open? Oh, it's Greg Dulcich.
It's Greg Dulcich.
A little sprinkle of Greg Dulcich there.
A little sprinkle of that. Okay,
I like him as
that.
the chives.
It's a little cheating, but I'll go with it.
He's a pass catcher.
Do you want to say Mims is the last guy then?
Oh, sure.
And so he's cheese?
Yeah.
I don't know how, but he is.
Yeah, he's cheese. Because he shreds defenses with his speed.
There you go. He shreds it. Yeah.
There we go.
I like that. That was good. Baked potato right there. Great comment. Finessing.
Great comment.
I like that. That was a good comment. And with that, let's get into our first topic, Aric.
Let's do it.
We're talking about Vance Joseph returning back to Denver, a place that he called home, and he's taken over for a defense that was really good a year ago. What are your expectations from Vance? And do you think there's any weirdness there that he used to be the guy in charge and now he's the defensive coordinator?
No, listen, I think Vance answered it really well, that there's no ego here. This isn't about pride. This is about winning football games. And he understands that he came here and got his chance. This is what he said on Wednesday. He had his opportunity, and the Broncos didn't win enough football games. You know, I mean, what, off the top of my head, I think they won
his
6 games.
second year was better with Case Keenum there.
Yeah.
The defense was good his first year.
So I think the Broncos went 5-11 and 6-10 maybe.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't good enough from a results standpoint. I think Vance Joseph understands that, but at the same time, if there were any lingering feelings, a lot of the people that he worked with and around are not here anymore.
Yeah,
there's new ownership, there's a new general manager. Obviously, the head coach, because he was the head coach, is different.
Yep.
A lot of the players are different. You're looking at guys like Justin Simmons, Josie Jewell. Maybe a couple others. He obviously coached Kareem in Houston, but not here. I mean, there's very few guys that are left at all.
Yeah.
From Cortland Sutton, not a defensive guy, but he was here.
Yeah.
So in some ways, even though the building is the same, and the walk to his office is probably similar, and the routine is close, it's a different environment now, and it gives him a chance to be home, which he talked a lot about. Obviously, a CU guy, and then. The fact that he gets to work with Sean Payton, who he considers, I think he said he was one of the best offensive minds.
Play callers.
One of the best play callers ever.
Yeah.
And so, listen, Vance Joseph is a guy, Phil, that I think is going to have a chance to be a head coach again in this league if he has success. He was hired as a young head coach, and maybe if the quarterback situation was different or a few things went differently, he would have had more success. But this is a guy that I think understands he's going to get that chance again. And so you don't want to pass up a good opportunity just from a pride standpoint. And listen, these guys love Vance Joseph. They want to play hard for him. It's been great to have him back around the building personally. I enjoy interacting with Vance.
Of course.
And so I think it's great that he's back here, and I think they can have a lot of success.
Yeah, and, the interview process that Sean Payton, the way he conducted the search for the defensive coordinator, it was pretty well publicized.
Yep.
And so for Vance to win out there and be the guy to come in here and lead this defense, that's a big opportunity for Vance. And I think that, you mentioned, I assume that he wants to be a head coach again. And so the way you do that is your defenses really excel out on the field. That's how you get noticed again. And then you say, hey, that Broncos defense was really good. Vance is running that side of the ball. Let's interview him. And so I think an opportunity to coach guys like Pat Surtain, Justin Simmons again, Randy Gregory. This could be a good defense again. Yep. And, if the Broncos win more games, he's going to be in the spotlight a little bit here. So this is a good opportunity for him and a place that he's familiar with. So I'm interested to see what he does with this defense, Aric, because I don't think that you want to come in and just be like, okay, let's just run it back with the way that Ejiro Evero ran things last year.
Nice.
Everything okay? That was pretty good, right?
It's been months, and the fact that you still nailed it was
dropped
good.
That. Yeah. I just, that kind of stuff sticks with you.
Yeah. That was good.
Boom. You can't just be like, let's run it back. Let's just do what they did. Because I do think that if you look at that defense last year, the situational football, not all the time was it a situation where an opposing offense was like, we've got to score a touchdown right here. We're throwing the whole bag out there. That wasn't the case a lot of the time. So maybe the final statistics showed one thing, but I do think it was still a really good defense, but you have to have your own personality in the mix there too. So what do you think that Vance's personality is, and what sort of twist will he put on this?
Yeah, I mean, you're right about last year. There were times when they couldn't get off the field in terms of stopping the run. Certainly Josh Jacobs against this kind of Fangio-style defense that Ejiro Evero brought back and continued has had some issues stopping the run, I think. that was a problem. You saw, I thought, several times momentum killing drives where like the Broncos scored a touchdown, I believe, against the Titans, and boom, you let one up after you hold them to nothing the whole game, and then immediately let them score right before halftime.
Yep.
You let the Ravens go down and score a touchdown at the end of regulation
with the third string quarterback.
Yep. And so you got some issues there that I think, again, were overlooked, and they weren't pushing things always because the Broncos offense wasn't a threat as much as it should have been. I think you saw that toward the end of Vic Fangio's tenure here too, in terms of how much teams were attacking the Broncos. Like what the Bengals that year against Vic scored 15 points, and then went to the Super Bowl. Like that offense had more
power
potential.
To it. But when you're winning the game, you're just doing enough to just sort of get through the game and win.
And so I think with Vance, we've heard that he is doing some stuff to kind of keep things similar from a verbiage standpoint, which I think is helpful for these guys, especially the ones that have been in it for several years. But I think you're going to see a more attacking style of defense. And you saw that at times with Evero. He blitzed more than Vic Fangio.
Yep.
But I do think Vance Joseph is going to come after you. My understanding of his defense is that it should be better against the run. It's just designed that way to be a little bit
more guys better, up front there.
Yeah, filling gaps. And so hopefully against a team like the Raiders, who obviously should be at the top of everybody's mind because they're the week one opponent, hopefully it's better poised to deal with that. And I just think Vance Joseph has a lot of talent to work with here. Phil, you mentioned Simmons and Gregory and Surtain, and you also got Zach Allen. You got Frank Clark. DJ Jones is a really solid player. Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton at linebacker. I mean, by the time Vance got here in 2017, you still had a lot of pieces in place from that Super Bowl defense, but you started to see guys slip a little bit, maybe, or
D-Ware was gone.
D-Ware was gone. I think T.J. Ward left. Aqib Talib was traded. I can't remember if that was 17 or 8. I think it was 18, 18. That he left. And so you saw some of these guys start to kind of move away. It
changed, yeah.
And so, I don't want to say just pound for pound that this defense is better talent-wise than the one he had, but certainly I think you could argue it's comparable in terms of you've got a first-team All-Pro in Pat Surtain. You've got a perennial second-team All-Pro type guy in Justin Simmons. You've got Randy Gregory, who can be really good when healthy. So you've got some pieces here, and so I am excited to see what he's able to do with this group. And listen, Phil, I said this last year, but if Sean Payton's offense takes a step forward, this defense doesn't need to be top 3. It just needs to be in a place where it can be top 10, top 12.
Don't lose the game.
And get key stops when you need to. Yeah. And I think based on what we've seen, that's possible.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing because you want to be good enough so that you're just like winning these games. But also I think one thing that Vance is going to be tasked with is how can we get more game-changing type of plays?
Yeah.
Like instead of just being like a good defense that doesn't allow that many points, how do you go make that strip sack that, busts the game wide open? Or like, how do you put Pat Surtain in a situation where he's getting more interceptions? Or, just things like that where you're dictating the terms there when you're on defense. And I do think that there were a couple of things that like stood out. Like, I think it was Justin Simmons who said that he's really confident in what we're going to be able to do. And just the way that it was said, I was like, oh, I think they're going to maybe take some more chances here and there where maybe they can make a big play. I do think that is something that Vance is going to try and bring to this defense is let's just create some sparks here for our team. But at the same time, you don't want to do something where all of a sudden a game is like this wide open shootout. You want to play safe, but you also want to create these moments where you do take a chance.
And we saw some of that, I think, like when Vance was here as the head coach, right? I remember against Dallas, Aqib Talib.
Yeah.
Pick six. Yeah. I can't remember the other game there. Aqib had some of those pick sixes. Some of that is Aqib, but also I think the defense that you put yourself in.
Yeah.
Justin Simmons, big clinching interception against the Raiders at home against Amari Cooper under Vance. I mean, you saw them make plays, and so you're right. The Broncos could use some of that. Give yourself an extra possession, steal some points here or there. And these guys are going to play hard for him, which is obviously the most important thing. But Phil, they're going to be tested, and it'll come pretty quickly. A trip to Miami in week 3 is going to be, I think, among the toughest games of the entire season. Justin Fields poses an interesting test. You got the Chiefs twice before the bye. I mean, in the first 8 weeks of the season, you're going to play probably 4 offenses between Miami, the Chiefs twice, and the Jets that are just really difficult.
Loaded, yeah. I mean, that's a task. I mean, even just in the division, the Mahomes factor, the Justin Herbert factor, you've got to figure out ways to stop these guys. Yeah, so
absolutely.
It's going to be a tough task for Vance Joseph, but if you can do it, that's how you get on some of these radars. And, Sean Payton said, hey, there's these guys on my staff that I think are going to be head coaches again or for the first time. So I think Vance is one of those guys.
I mean, there were whispers last year. Even the Cardinals were not successful, but even as all that was going on, people were still talking about Vance Joseph being a possible candidate to be the head coach there.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
So, hopefully he gets that second opportunity. Obviously, it didn't go well the first time, but you live and you learn, and he's got a lot more. He's got 4 more years experience now. So
yeah, and you even hear from a guy like Zach Allen. He's like, I wanted to play for Vance again. Yeah, so that there's a lot of respect there, I think. So, Aric, moving on to our second topic here. One of those players who's going to play a huge role for Vance Joseph, Pat Surtain again.
Yep.
He might be staying on the field for a little bit longer, You get the big stop on 3rd down, and then you just stay out there, Aric.
Yeah.
And maybe you catch a couple of these punts.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a every down sort of thing, but for those who didn't catch this, Sean Payton was asked, hey, I saw you working with Pat Surtain on punt return. What was that all about? And Sean Payton basically said, and this is twofold, I think. One is that Sean Payton is so detail-oriented and so in tune with every small little thing that he's already thinking about, okay, if punt returner number 1 goes down and we need somebody, hey, it's a key game in Kansas City and we need somebody that's sure-handed. Maybe you're not even having them return the punt. You just want somebody to go out there and catch the ball.
Yeah.
Who can we trust to go back there? And he said, okay, we're working through some options. Pat Surtain is a guy who did it in high school. He's a guy we trust, for a living. He's trying to catch the other team's passes. So here's a guy that we could potentially trust to throw back there. So that's one element of it to me, Phil, is that Sean Payton is aware of every little thing and
going through his options
and willing to leave no stone unturned here, really. The second element is that, it was suggested that Pat wants to be out there and wants to help his team. And I think that's the bigger thing is that when your starters, and I think Ben Kotwika said this on the podium, I believe it was him, when your starters and your best players are also the hardest working and the ones who buy in the most, that's a sign of a good team because it convinces everybody else that they should do the same thing. And if Pat Surtain is willing to say, hey, I'm a first-team All-Pro corner, I probably should be in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year, I'm willing to go out there and return a punt and take a hit if I need to for this team to be good and to win football games. That tells you a lot about Pat Surtain's character, and it tells you a lot, I think, about how other guys should then buy into what this team can be.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think there's this notion that, like, special teams, like, oh, what if you get hurt playing special teams? But the way Sean Payton was talking about it this week was these are important snaps, too. It's not like this is just some other part of the game that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So he's like, if he can help this team, why wouldn't he be out there? It's a snap. It's a part of the game. And so I think that sort of just is part of the vibe that Sean Payton is creating here that, hey, all of this stuff matters. All of the snaps matter. And if you can help us here, then you're going to help us. And so I think that's one of the things. But then also, I think if you're a guy like Surtain and you want to be one of the best of all time, you want to get maybe some – when guys aren't throwing to him, you tend to not have the ball in your hands much. Do you know what I mean? Like, so if you can make an impact play this way, that's another way for him to sort of get some –
a Dion.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get toward. It's just that, like, hey – some of the greats in the past have done this. You can make some game-changing plays this way. You can start to get a little bit of, like Micah Parsons, he can go and make the sack, and he's going to get attention here. Yeah. But, like Pat Surtain, if he locks down a guy, you're not really paying attention. So if he's catching the punt and he's returning it for a touchdown, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
there's more eyeballs on you there a little bit.
And I didn't necessarily take it as he's going to be returning these.
Yeah.
I view him, based on what Sean Payton said, I heard more of like, as a last resort, we need somebody to go out there and just catch the ball.
Like a Rod Smith used to do that a little bit.
Yeah, I think Emmanuel a couple times would do that.
Times.
That's kind of what I view it as. Is like, hey, let's somebody that we know is going to catch the ball. We don't have to worry about it. We'll take over at the 35 and go from there. So that is, part of it. But I would say just the fact that this is being emphasized, because the reason this is gaining attention is because last year Dwayne Stukes was asked about this, and he said, absolutely not. Are you crazy? Like, that's how I lose my job when my best player gets hurt on special teams. Because in that case, it would have been a special teams coordinator's idea instead of the head coaches, whereas this directive is coming from the head coach. And I think that, too, sends a message about, hey, special teams is important from the very top here. That's why they brought in Mike Westhoff and Ben Kotwika. From the top down, this is being emphasized. And Phil, listen, there is always that risk. I mean, Josie Jewell was having a great game against the Jaguars in 2021.
Yes.
Yeah. And runs down the field, makes a great tackle, out for the season.
Boom.
Surtain in this case is not going to be tackling anybody, but you can get hurt.
Happen.
Right. And the play that Josie got hurt on, it was just a routine tackle. It's not like he got blindsided by some sort of block.
Yeah.
He just made a tackle. It could have happened on defense. So I do think that the top, you got to be aware of the injury risk. And so that's why I'm not sure I would have him back there every time returning kicks and like trying to be Neon Dion, but maybe they do go that way if they decide they need a spark. I mean, we saw sometimes, I think in the past, Phil, where the Broncos, like, I can't remember what game it was, but at one point they would stick Aqib Talib back there or Emmanuel Sanders. Like, we need a big punt return here. Let's see if somebody can make something happen.
Because I do think the Broncos, their intentions are probably, I would assume, to have either Marvin Mims Jr. or Montrell Washington back there in this role. I think
so. We've seen Kendall Hinton return punts at times.
Yeah. But, like, you hear about Marvin Mims, during draft weekend, and a lot of talk about how he's special in that role, as a returner. So I think in an ideal world, one of those guys is returning punts back there, and you're confident in their abilities to secure the catch and also their return ability. But yeah, maybe in some situations you might need maybe one of those guys gets hurt, and late in the game you need a catch back there. Let's see if Surtain can do.
Yeah, or I don't think it was Montrell Washington, but the Broncos have previously had some guys that have had issues with like muffed punts or muffed kicks. Yeah. And
that happened to Washington last year, right? In that Colts game.
And they left him in there, right?
The Chargers? Was it Chargers game in overtime?
Well, but there was one where, I think you're right, it was a Colts game where like there was a kickoff that maybe was muffed and they recovered it. But
okay.
Anyway, I think they left him in there. I don't know if I view, and again, that's just speculation based on like everything I've seen from Sean Payton so far. I don't know if I view Sean Payton as a guy who's going to let you muff multiple kicks and stay out there.
Yeah.
And so
there's consequences.
It could be like, hey, somebody muffs an important kick. We're not trusting him back there for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Pat, get out there and catch these.
Yeah, exactly. Even if they're healthy.
So always good to have a backup plan. You only have so many guys active on game day. You've got to have them play multiple roles. And if Pat Surtain can help, that's great, and maybe he tries to take one back at some point.
Yeah, and it's an interesting headline if you're like, oh, is Pat Surtain going to be returning?
It is interesting.
That's why it kind of catches
that's why we're talking about it.
Exactly, yeah. But it was our second topic.
It was. So not the most important.
Yeah.
Kind of buried it a little bit.
And then our third topic here today, Aric, just talking about the addition of Frank Clark coming in here. What can he do for the pass rush? And particularly the pass rush specialist, position coach there. And then second, is Frank Clark just the first of some future additions that could be coming in here? Or is this roster in a good enough spot where let's just go into training camp and we'll ride with this crew? Yeah,
we'll in terms of Frank Clark, we've talked about him and there's been a lot of discussion about him, but I would say his ability to make big plays in playoff games is important, and so he's a big game player. I think pairing him with Randy Gregory is really intriguing. He's a guy that did not, frankly, do very well in Seattle. I think 3 sacks in 3 years, and then got to Kansas City and started playing really well.
Yep.
He's won a lot. He's a guy that, quite frankly, you look at that group after Baron Browning's injury, you'd either be expecting a big jump from a Jonathan Cooper or a Nick Bonito, or you're needing to, opposite Randy Gregory, or you're needing to go out and get somebody. And I like the idea of going out and getting somebody proven. He's in the division, so he knows kind of what this rivalry is all about. He knows what it's like to face some of these AFC West quarterbacks. And yeah, he should make them significantly better. I don't know if when Randy Gregory is healthy, I would think Randy is still the best pass rusher on the team.
Agreed.
But Frank Clark, I think, is right there. And you now have a duo that you're like, man, that's pretty good. Whereas before, that was probably the area where I looked at it and had the most skepticism about this roster.
Yeah, I think that, draft weekend, we were like, oh, they're definitely going to add a pass rusher here. And they didn't do that. So that's just an area that you need guys who can make an impact on the game, especially we mentioned Mahomes, we mentioned Herbert, see if Jimmy G is available for the Raiders here. But you got to make the opposing quarterback feel your pressure. That leads to turnovers. That leads to all kinds of good things.
Yep.
So they needed to add somebody there. And it does seem like this Broncos team is very patient when it comes to this type of thing. It doesn't seem like they're like, we got to do something right now and we got to bring in a guy. They're just like, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it.
They waited to sign Cam Fleming. They let some things develop before Marquez Callaway signed with the team. There were some other kind of free agent signings, and they went after their initial guys, but then the wave just continued, and I think they were comfortable waiting. Kareem Jackson obviously came back after a decent wait there.
They take their time with these type of things.
Yeah.
Even with the hiring the coaching staff, people are like, what's going on? And it's like,
it's better to just be right than to, and who knows with these players if you're right, but it's better to be right than to be fast.
Yeah.
I would say that you've heard Sean talk about pressure players in general and the need for them. And he was saying essentially there's not many guys out there that are pressure players that can create their own issues for opposing offenses like Frank Clark. They were able to find that type of guy. I think you have one in Randy Gregory. The Broncos believe they have one in Zach Allen. They believe they have one in Drew Sanders, potentially.
Yep.
But when you don't have those guys, then, as Sean Payton was saying, you have to create it. You have to manufacture it. And that means sending blitzes. It means, exotic looks. Yeah, any scheme-related things, which then leaves you vulnerable elsewhere.
Yep.
And if you're playing the Chiefs and you've got to send 6 or 7 guys because
that doesn't work
because you can't get there with 4 or 5, now you're in trouble.
Yep.
And so because you got a single Travis Kelce or you've got a single Mecole Hardman. Is he still there?
I think so.
Maybe he was a free agent.
There were some changes in their wide receiving group.
Anyway, the point kind of still stands. That
they got a lot of guys.
If you
Mahomes
cannot get pressure with 4 or 5, you're going to be in trouble against those guys. And so the Broncos needed to add a pressure player that could be that type of guy. And I think now with a Randy Gregory, Frank Clark, and Zach Allen, when you're able to rush those 3, you hope one of those guys can get home better or more often than not.
Yeah. What do you think about the Madden trailer coming out and they had Mahomes dive in like that? Like, why did they have to do that?
A little ridiculous.
I was like, oh, it's kind of a shot.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't know about Frank Clark.
This is just what you deal with, I think, when you
just
been
win
in this
Super Bowls
spot
like that. Yeah.
For the Broncos.
But maybe they didn't know Frank Clark was coming. Maybe he
Mahomes
won't have
tries
the
to
chance.
Jump sideways, boom, helicoptered.
Yeah, exactly.
In a bad way.
In a bad helicopter.
Bad helicopter.
Yeah. Aric, but what other positions are you looking at where you think they might look to add some competition or add some depth or, we know that there's a kicking competition already.
Yeah, I was going to say kicker.
Yeah, that's that right off the top
That's
of
every
my
fan
head.
is
Elliott
just
Fry,
dialed into the kicker.
Randy Bullock.
I look and really the only place I see is maybe defensive line. I think quarterback obviously is fine. Running back, you could maybe add a fast kind of change of pace guy there, but I don't think it's necessary. Wide receiver, you're fine. Offensive line, I like the depth there. They added Cam Fleming as a swing tackle. You've got a lot of guys there in the interior that can play center or guard.
Yep.
Outside linebacker, I think you're now probably okay. I actually probably wouldn't hate if they added one more like vet toward the end of camp, but we'll see if they do that. Inside backer, depth's as good as it's ever been there.
Drew Sanders, Jonas Griffith,
Josie Jewell, Alex
Justin
Singleton,
Strnad.
Justin Strnad. It's a good group there.
Yeah.
Corner, again, I think you're fine.
Yeah.
And safety, I think you're fine. So it really comes down to me, defensive line, just because, right now you got a couple of guys dealing with some injury
Purcell.
things. Yeah. So you're looking at a starting group, I would think, of like a DJ Jones, Zach Allen, and then who's at that other – you could move DJ Jones to defensive end and then have like Tyler Lancaster could be an option there at nose. Eni Owazurike, maybe he's an option there. But you're counting on Owazurike, Matt Henningsen, Jonathan Harris. You're counting on those types of guys.
An unproven guy to come in there and be
a pretty significant contributor. And so that's where maybe if there's a guy that you're like, hey, I know – we've got a proven guy that we can bring in and just shore this up a little bit more. That would be where I would look. Just again, it's not like a huge hole or anything, but it's just a question mark. And if you wanted to remove a question mark, I would probably look there.
Yeah, that's like I think that's fair. Your assessment of the rest of the roster. Maybe a running back I think could be a position, but we'll have to see. Sean Payton was asked about Javonte Williams. Before the offseason program really got rolling, Sean said, hey, I think that Javonte's made pretty good progress here. We're expecting him to be good to go for training camp.
Yeah.
And he was asked at the end of the offseason program on Thursday, how do you feel? And he said, I feel the same.
Yeah. And again, some of that is, hey, if Javonte's not ready to go for whatever reason or suffers a setback or something, we're knocking on wood here that doesn't happen. But if that does happen, then, running back becomes a much bigger need.
Yeah.
As it stands now, I don't see it that way. Especially, we talk about this joker type player. If that's Greg Dulcich, for Sean previously, it can be a running back. If it's a tight end and you're not throwing 80 passes to Alvin Kamara, maybe you don't need that same type of guy. Maybe you count on Samaje or Javonte to catch those passes. But worth monitoring that spot, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. And you never know. Running back always feels like a position where there's a guy that you don't really know much about. And then during training camp or in the preseason, you're like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
It always seems like there's a running back that's like
Tyler
that,
Beatty,
and a wide receiver.
Tyler Beatty had a kind of a good end of the season. Jaleel McLaughlin is an undrafted guy a lot of people like. They're quicker, I think, than in a different kind of body type than a Javonte or a Samaje. So, maybe they prove that they deserve a spot here.
Yeah. And then I agree. Defensive line, maybe a couple of unproven guys that you're counting on right now. If you're looking to shore up some stuff, I can see that.
Especially if you want to play DJ at nose.
Yeah.
If you're okay playing DJ at defensive end and doing a Owazurike or a Purcell when he gets healthy or Tyler Lancaster. If one of those guys is okay in the middle, then maybe it's not as big of a deal. But if you want DJ to play inside, especially on early downs, I think you need somebody maybe outside. Unless you think Henningsen or Jonathan Harris is ready to take that step. Yeah.
And we saw Henningsen play a lot at the beginning and middle of last season, not so much at the end. So we'll have to just see.
Yeah, and again, when the pads come on, you can tell a little bit more.
Yeah.
So maybe they're waiting to see, and it doesn't have to be immediate. It doesn't have to be a guy that sticks. Broncos last year brought in Joe Schobert, thinking he could be a potential starter. He lasted 3 days.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you just kick the tires on these guys.
Yeah. These kind of things happen all the time. It's like not just a training camp type of thing. No. It's just all the time.
There's normally, it seems like, for each team, like one training camp edition that is somewhat meaningful, right?
Yeah.
So we'll just see kind of how that goes.
Yeah. All right, Eric, I think it's time for shout-outs.
Let's do it.
Of course, shout out to Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., KCP, Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, Jeff Green. I mean, I could keep going. DeAndre Jordan. Yeah, I mean, these
Michael
guys.
Malone.
Michael Malone. This is just a
Bones
special
Island.
time. Excuse me. For this Nuggets squad and the whole city. So shout out to them. Keep that going.
Shout out to them for sure.
For sure. So
Shout out to our friend Liz Gerald's.
of course, the work in the community doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't. Some 7-on-7.
Oh, Bobby missed this time.
Yep. And offensive lineman challenge, the finals this weekend.
Yep.
Our friend Ben Swanson, he's getting ready to cover that. That's why he's not here right now.
I was going to say, where do you think Ben Swanson is?
I don't know. I haven't seen him in a while.
We haven't really talked about that.
Since the Game 5 win, he's kind of just been MIA.
I have not.
I think he was walking with Aaron Gordon.
I did see him in those videos.
Yeah, down, was that Broadway?
Yeah, well, he walked home,
Yeah.
seems like. So how do you think that happens?
Swanson was in that warehouse, I think, with
does
Gordon.
that happen? Where he lives?
Yeah, he lives in a warehouse, huh?
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
He's got a full basketball court in his house.
You think like his agent's like, here, I'll find you a real estate person. He's like, just give me the best warehouse.
Give me a nice warehouse.
I don't want an apartment. Give me the best warehouse.
I think if you made a warehouse really cool, that open, lofty kind of.
Probably expensive to keep air conditioned and heated in the winter.
You got to park your cars.
Security problems. You just drive your car right in there.
into it. Yeah. It's no problem.
Yeah.
I heard teammates go over there, they play, they
you
just
take your
drive
shoes
right in.
off, or what do you do? Like when you go inside?
Well, to play, you have to have your shoes on.
But like when they go into the home portion.
The home part
or is
of
there
it.
just like a couch somewhere?
No.
There's just like a bed.
I bet you there's a living area.
There's a bed next to the court. I'm
That's
intrigued by the warehouse.
That's the dedication it takes to win a championship.
I guess so. Yeah.
You know what that's like.
I'd live in a warehouse for a year if the Broncos won a championship.
Yeah. Just like curled up in the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more of a sad warehouse.
Kind of like under my desk. As long as I could have a desk in there.
Yeah.
I'd be
do
okay.
some typing.
You're right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. Have no fear. The off-season program is over, but
We're still
the neutral
here.
zone keeps going.
That's right.
It doesn't. We don't really take a break.
No.
We don't really know what that is.
We'll never find out.
Because when it's Thursday, it's neutral zone day.
NZ day.
Exactly. So we'll be back next week with more of your very favorite podcast. Nice.
Right.
Maybe Ben Swanson will be here. Maybe he won't be.
I doubt it.
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can find him. All right, that's going to do it for us. For Aric DiLalla, I am Phil Milani. You've been listening to
The Neutral Zone.